heard, okay?
Wait, what the fuck? Hold on, give me 1 second.
Reveal it on the team.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. Let's go.
Well, you need to block that somebody, Ray, okay? Because Rock Nation, who I work for, allegedly, replied to that commentary by posting in their story, album done, right? They don't care about having credibility. They just care about attention. They just care about being acknowledged. But I'm here to tell you, that's not sustainable, okay?
Swatted, chat, swatted. I'm sorry. Oh, my God. All right.
Enjoy Flacco's YouTube channel.
Which I've told him multiple times, it's irresponsible. Like this lie telling about mustard. That's a bad lie.
I'll watch him like tear down like Chud.
The Fruit Jams in the chat. What up?
You heard, okay?
Thank you, Lily Leo. Appreciate you. Damn. All right. So separate from the Rock Nation question entirely, somebody weaponized the emergency services against a person on camera in a platform where it happens basically, you know, with no mechanism to stop it. You know, like what do we do to protect ourselves against that type of attack, if you will? And then the second thing, you know, notice how this pairs other media stories on the board, like the Ray Daniels reporting a Jay-Z album, Rock Nation calling it fake news. You know, Charlamagne giving him donkey of the day. You know, Ray Daniels firing back. You know, rap media is having a very public argument about his own sourcing standards, like this week in particular. You know, it's not a coincidence when the biggest institution in the culture pushes back hard on two commentators in the same week. That's a story about power, not just about, like, you know, gossip or not. So, real question, chat. Does rap media actually hold Rock Nation accountable, or does everybody just tiptoe? What are your thoughts? Leave your answer in the chat. You all think one way or the other on that. And do you believe that rap media like covers Rock Nation honestly? You know, 1 for yes, 2 for no. I mean, do you think that any is willing to really call them out? If I had to make a guess on that, I doubt it. I doubt it. And it's not just a Rock Nation thing. I think it's just a entertainer thing. Rarely do you see an entertainer being called out for anything publicly. Not if they feel at the top of their game and they have all their influence. That's rare. Whether it's a athlete or a singer, actress, actor, whoever they are, if they are still in their place of influence, nobody really is going to push back against whatever they're saying, or that just doesn't happen. Because if you do, then backlash. Usually backlash. So today is the 4th day of the jury selection in the Las Vegas Dwayne "Keefy" Davis trial for the killing of Tupac Shakur. He's pleading not guilty to that. And this week, the case against him got significantly stronger in a way that has almost no precedent. Understand what prosecutors are working with. You know, there's no DNA, there's no recovered weapon, there's no living eyewitnesses. Orlando Anderson, the alleged shooter, no longer with us. He was, passed away in 1998. So what is the case? It's just him. It's Keefy D's own words. In 2019, memoirs called Compton Street Legend, in which he described getting a gun, getting into a white Cadillac with 3 other men and pursuing Tupac through Las Vegas, multiple on-camera interviews. In 2008, a police interview. Prosecutors allege he was in the Cadillac. They do not allege he fired. They allege he helped orchestrate it, though, and supplied the weapon. So the alleged motive, retaliation for a fight that occurred inside the MGM Grand earlier that night, where Tupac and his entourage attacked Davis's nephew, who was the actual shooter. So KD's defense appears to be collapsing before our very eyes, right? So now here's what happened this week, and it's the most important development in the case thus far. So Davis's recent strategy has been to walk it all back. Everything he said, hey, I didn't say it. That was a ghostwriter that did that. I didn't write that book, exaggerated for money, fabricated for attention. However, there's two problems. One problem is the judge already ruled that the memoirs and the 2008 interview are admissible back in July 28th, specifically because Davis adopted the material as his own. So his defense fought all the way up and lost. And second problem is that this is just the new one. Jailhouse audio is surfaced of Davis discussing the memoirs and the details of the shooting, which directly undercut the claims that he didn't write the book. So think about what that means. His defense was, I'm a liar who made it up for money. That's a rough place to stand, even when it works. Now that the tape on him talks about a book he allegedly didn't write. Now he turns down the plea. His stated reason, he's 63, he had a battle with cancer, he's got 3 stents in his heart, and he figures he got maybe max 10 years to live. So why plea? I mean, I get that. However, I mean, I think you really need a defense, though, if you don't take the plea. So I get why he would not take the plea, but I think you would want to have a viable defense if you don't take the plea. So potential witnesses. Prosecutors named Suge Knight, Sean Combs, Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo, Yusuf John, Davis's purported memoir co-author. So one interesting part. Is Suge okay. Well, it's different takes on Suge. So Suge Knight is refusing to testify in so many words. And it's kind of a risky play because apparently he's trying to get out of jail. So does that work out for him? I don't know. Time will tell what that means and if that was indeed the right decision. Apparently he had a conversation with TMZ where he really said that he's not going to cooperate. So and I think they were really counting on him to give some type of insight as to what may have occurred. So Suge called TMZ from prison on Tuesday, said this wasn't about a chain or gang colors, said, quote, this was an assassination, said more people were involved, refused to name any of them though, said he won't cooperate. So 2 things before we move. This trial probably will not tell us who pulled the trigger. Well, we already know that, but whatever comes out of that room is going to be partial because, going into it, we know that Keefe didn't actually shoot, or we don't have reason to believe that he did that. But, either way, we'll cover every day of it, same standard, source, and presume. We have to presume that Keefe is innocent until proven otherwise. Now, another story. Diddy's back in the headlines. Diddy is back in general population after a brief stint in solitary confinement. Per TMZ, he's been in special housing unit, the whole, since July from an altercation with another inmate. Sources say another inmate disrespected him. It escalated into pushing and punching. Staff broke it up quickly. Sources told TMZ he held his own. Diddy ain't no punk. Unclear if any further discipline is coming. Bureau of Prisons didn't comment on either individual's discipline. So his release right now is projected for February 2028. So, which is earlier than the May 28th that was initially reported. So he's been back in residential drug program and eligible for programming, and that's all we got. So he's had a federal, he filed some documentation for federal court, and that's the second front. And this is a little more interesting than the other one because Combs is filing counterclaims in a Manhattan federal court against Little Rod Jones. The allegation Jones stole private footage from his time working around Combs and sold it to 50 Cent for his Netflix documentary. The filing named Netflix, West Tower Road, LLC, and 50 Cent. It says Jones sold footage to them and or one another. He was trying to get to the bottom of who actually leaked that footage. He never gave that footage out. He never gave permission for that footage to be used in that documentary. So, I believe a lot of that was expected. Am I right? But Netflix and director Alexandria Stapleton have maintained the footage was obtained legally, and they hold the necessary rights. So a man serving a federal sentence is suing over a documentary about how he got the federal sentence. And he's dragging his oldest rival into it. The same week he's coming out of solitary. So what's the takeaway from that? My take is the stolen footage claims are, it isn't frivolous, but, ownership of unreleased personal documents is generally unsettled legal questions. And Combs has been filming himself since he was 19. That's the real archive with real value. But the strategic goal here probably isn't winning, it's discovery. You know, it's forcing Netflix to name the confidential filmmaker they spent a year protecting. So this is probably just a more kind of legal positioning for a larger case, a larger civil case down the road where Diddy will swing for the fences against Netflix for releasing that documentary. Now, Beyonce's being sued again. So she's being sued and over this song, Alien Superstar. Heroes Enterprise and producers suing her for copyright infringement. And here's the wrinkle, and it's a pretty good one. Beyonce's team did get licensing allegedly from some person, Holiday, and he's credited on the song. The problem, according to the plaintiff, is that Holiday had already transferred those rights that they had decades earlier. So they're arguing she got permission from the wrong person. And earlier version of this got dismissed in June on the technicality. The judge found that Heroes Enterprise didn't legally exist when it filed. So they're basically doing it all over again without the technicality. So I'm sure it'll get settled. I'm sure it'll work itself out. Tyga. Tyga. So Tyga released an album, Starface. Anybody heard that yet? I heard a song. Pitchfork gave it a 0.0. And that's the only 0 grade that they've given out in 19 years. He's apparently fully crossed over out of hip hop. And, you know, maybe that album wasn't that bad. Because I covered this story last night. And I'm going to say, maybe Tyga's album isn't that bad. I think people are more pissed off because he had these plans to cross over away from hip hop. And I guess he really didn't tell anyone. So I guess the issue is that, you know, maybe that's not even a hip hop album. It didn't sound like one to me. And I think he's being graded as if it is a hip hop album. And I think that's where the problem is. You know, it's not a hip hop album. He's being graded if it is a hip hop album. So it's using hip hop kind of metrics to kind of rate how good it even is. And it's not hip hop at all. So it's kind of tough to even grade that, because it's more of like maybe alternative or something like that. And if you're not into that, then it's like you're wasting your time. I think that's what that grade is about. Not necessarily it's a bad album. It is a waste of my damn time. That's what that grade says. And then apparently he used AI, which, you know, I personally don't mind if he uses AI or not. My issue is end product. If you use AI and you get to the desired end product, great. You got the end product that is desirable, however you got there. If you made a hit record, however you got there. So I'm not going to knock you. I won't knock you if you use AI or you use auto-tune or you use whatever in the hell, when I like the song, then I like the song. If I don't like the song, I don't care if it was all your singing or it was all your writing. I don't know who writes these songs any damn way. Who writes these songs? I don't know. So, you know, if these people are writing them themselves, great. If other people are writing them, that's great too. If it's a good song, then it's a good song. But that really has no bearing on what I think a good song is, if that makes sense. I'm more of a results kind of person, and if the results make sense, then the song makes sense. And I said this yesterday. I'll say it again because I think it's the actual story. You know, he didn't get a 0 because he's being corny. And it really, I said it yesterday, I don't even know if I even believe that anymore. I said he got a 0 for outsourcing the part that he was supposed to do himself. I don't know if that's even the case either. I think he got a 0 because he really went a completely different direction and no one knew. You know, I think he could have done all that on his own. And if it sounded the same way and it was him writing it, and it was him singing it or him doing whatever, and it still sounded about the same way it sounded, why would it be a different grade? Why? I don't get it. So that was a grade written supposedly for a label executive. Well, I'm pretty sure they were in it too. So yeah, sure. They got some smoke too for that. So let's do some rapid fire, shall we? Anybody familiar with the rock wave issue?
He's a Texas artist who's really known for his R&B and singing.
Okay.
But over the past couple of years, he's been fighting his case with his ex. And it just came out. Prosecutors said they have 90 gigabytes of evidence against Rod Wave, almost 2,000 photos, 111 videos, all in the case of him shooting up his ex G-Wagon. And a lot of fans are saying that he's portraying a life that he's not even living. A lot of his fans are confused on why he's making sad music but doing violent things. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Y'all think he's beating his case, or y'all think he's going to sit down and do some jail time? If you ask me, I feel like he's definitely going to serve jail time just because of the amount of evidence that they have. And they also found several bullets casing back to him inside of the vehicle. So I feel like he's definitely going to do some time sitting down. Even if it's not that much time, he's going to do something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's gonna definitely get some time in that box. 90 gigabytes. What is a gigabyte in a violent crime? What is that? I'm curious. 1,900 photos. What's that? 111 videos. What is that in a violent crime? What is that? I'm curious. Usually, you know, like he said, they found bullet cases. Okay, that's a violent crime, right? Okay, that aligns with a violent crime. That makes me this data and this gigabytes and these photos. That makes me think of something completely different. But either way, it's a lot of that. So I don't see him just walking. I don't see him just getting up and saying, well, that's it. No deal. Just dismiss mine. No. See him getting going in that box for a little bit, at least a little bit. You know, maybe it's not as much as the next person, but he definitely goes in for a minute. So apparently, This dates back to April 2025, Georgia shooting. 14 charges, pled not guilty. Attorney Drew filing says Wave was a burglary victim. Court date is September 28th. So wait a minute. He was a burglary victim, and so he shot up the car because he's a burglary victim? I don't get that. Somebody have to connect the dots on that. Can anybody make sense out of that? Anybody? So Biggie Smalls, former manager, secured a share of his catalog profits, with Faith Evans required to release withheld funds. Another entry in the deceased icon catalog fight. So Biggie Smalls lives on, at least in the eyes of the court, as far as his estate and his property. Still here, he's still fighting for something. Next up, we got Dame Dash weighing in on Jay-Z comeback.
Back out. Wants to see a wrinkled up 60-year-old camel face. Rappers are not supposed to come back at 60.
The jig is up.
Do you understand this? It's over, bro. It was over 30 years ago. You don't want to come back out. Wants to see a wrinkled up 60-year-old camel face, come out and be old with his back hurt, a little arthritis, not moving the same. Like, who wants to see that? Pause. Rappers are not.
I think people want to see it. I think people want to see maybe more of the attempt. You know, we love a comeback story. We love the George Foreman type stories of the over the hill boxer, out of shape rapper or whatever to do something. Out of sorts athlete somehow figures it out for one last hoorah. You know, I think we love those kind of stories. You know, I don't like going out of their way just like to hate on somebody else. Like, you know, if he tries to bring it back together after 30 years, what does it matter? What does that matter? Is that food off of Dame Dash's table? If he tries one more time, let him look like a fool. If that's what's out there for him for trying. He's wrinkled up camel face, as he said. Okay, well, maybe so. You know, I'm not the biggest Jay-Z fan, but who is to say when your time is up? You know, it's not a former business partner. I mean, not usually. So, I mean, hey, if that's how you want to spend the rest of your life, to keep trying to do whatever it is you want to do, I think that's a wonderful endeavor. John Wexler. Anybody know about John Wexler? Former Yeezy general manager, made moves that have sneaker media speculating about a possible reunion. Yeah. Let's see.
To get to that point in time, and sometimes you have 50 million, 24 hours, 2 websites, adidas.com/Yeezy and YeezySupply.com. We did a single drop with 1.4 million pairs of one of the shoes in September 21st, 2018, I believe.
Is he going back to Yeezy?
We had all those dancers on the covers of New York Times wearing the triple white Yeezy. Did 350 million, 24 hours, 2 websites, adidas.com/Yeezy and YeezySupply.com. Yeah. So that was the ultimate goal. But, you know, to get to that point in time and to sometimes you have to like pull back the spring to build that demand before, or not sometimes, if you want to do that business right, the point of that is to always have a little bit of unrequited love that people have to keep chasing. I mean, even with 1.4 million pairs of that shoe going out that day, there are still people to this day that couldn't get that shoe, you know? And that was also the third time we restocked that.
That's dope.
So
Shit.
it's pretty fun. Did 350 million.
Well, I don't know. Sounds pretty impressive. Well, who owns? Does Yeezy own? Does Kanye own Yeezy still, or does that belong to Adidas? Anybody know? Just wondering. In other news, Megan Thee Stallion, Act 3 confirmed on Monday. So she has another album. She confirmed that she is coming out with her third album, but no release date and no single. So we'll be on the lookout. Next up, we got Pooh Shiesty. Who messed with that Pooh Shiesty? Anybody? Man, that Pooh Shiesty is a banger. Banger. Slapping. So still number one on Apple Music across all genres from Custody. And interesting story. I mean, you can't even put this in Power or Empire or anything. I mean, it's just this story is just too wild. You know, he's on the label of the man he's accused of robbing. You know, still no precedent for that. I mean, we never heard of such a thing. So what do y'all think? Is this a business on behalf of Gucci Mane? What are your thoughts? So what are your thoughts on the Beyonce sampling case? Boring on the surface, but it's one that could change how the whole industry handles old clearances. You know, it seemed like they tried to do the right thing. It seemed like the intent was there to do the right thing. You know, that's why I think it's going to get settled one way or another. It'll get settled. Probably out of court. They'll come to some type of resolution, I believe. But I think that I think Beyonce tried to figure that out. I think she tried to clear whatever sample. And apparently they paid the wrong person. I guess you can't make that up either. And academic SWAT, how does that play out? Anybody know? Not because we know it happened, really, it's because we don't. Because the person had armed police sent to Axe house over maybe just words, maybe just something as minor, just words they didn't like. And that's the thing that keeps happening with zero consequences. So, you know, how do these things end up working out eventually? How do we think that's going to work out long term? You know, does that work out long term? Lastly, KVD, Tupac. KVD's defense was, I made it all up. You know, there's now a tape of him discussing the book. He says he didn't write it. Opening statements start on Monday, August 17th. Mark it. That's the biggest scheduled news event in the culture in years. And we'll be here for it. So, final poll. What do you want more? Legal breakdown, music business, or viral? Drop it in the comments below. I actually read these and it shapes the rundown, believe it or not. Any questions? Any questions? Let's do some Q&A. And on the academics thing, I'm asking specifically, don't go post a name you can't back up. That's how people get hurt, and that's how channels like this lose the right to be believed, you know. But Monday is a big one. Monday's definitely a big one, so we'll pick up there as far as the trial. Other than that, let's see.
Pulled up to the studio where Gucci Mane was recording, and according to authorities, Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, his father, and other individuals were up in there pressing Gucci Mane to sign Pooh Shiesty out of his record deal. Now, this is all according to authorities. Now, crazier enough, 6 months before Pooh Shiesty's trials begin, which is actually supposed to start in February of 2027, Pooh Shiesty has now gone on to drop this album still under the 1017 label, which, if you ask me, man, what was the point of doing what Pooh Shiesty did? Because now he's still under Gucci Mane's 1017 label, but facing a life sentence. If you ask me, man, Pooh Shiesty should have just took whatever Gucci Mane was giving him to the chin and kept it chucking. Because to be in the same contract that you was before, but now you're just sitting behind bars, probably for the rest of your life, I mean, what's the worth of that? Now, Pooh Shiesty did get on the phone and was popping it from behind bars, saying, like, you know what I'm saying? It ain't what the internet talking about. We don't know what nobody talking about. He's popping it like, you know, like he's coming back home soon. And man, listen, man, that's what I want. I hope Pooh Shiesty comes home, but from the way it's looking, I don't know.
You know, this shit's still going on. We still putting on like cologne, man. This ain't the biggest, man. This is one that's bigger than the program, man. And it just, you know, ain't shit changed but the environment, man. We got new music on the way. This shit for the fans. This shit for everybody who been waiting. You know, this shit supposed to been out. We don't give about what no got to say, what no think they know what's going on, especially the internet. This shit ain't nothing, some small to a giant, man. It's a pebble to a giant, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm gonna shake back. Ain't about how you trip up or how you stumble or how you fall. It's always how you get back up. You know, everybody can't just get back up like a nigga. I'll be back in a minute. I'm gonna shake back. You know that. I'm gonna shake back. You know how this shit go.
Pooh Shiesty's album is actually on pace to sell 40,000 the first week, which is, listen, that's 20,000 more than what Rick Ross did with all this promotion I hear. But Pooh Shiesty is popping it on this album, and you guys gotta remember, man, these prosecutors like using a lot of the lyrics in these cases. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear authorities hit Pooh Shiesty with more charges a few months before his trial, just like they try to do to Lil Durk. The fact that Pooh Shiesty is sitting behind bars and still went on to drop an album under the 1017 label, which is the label owned by Gucci Mane, which is the reason why Pooh Shiesty is currently behind bars, because allegedly Pooh Shiesty pulled up to the studio where Gucci Mane was recording, and according to authorities, Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, his father, and other individuals were up in there pressing Gucci Mane to sign Pooh Shiesty out of his record deal. Now, this is all according to authorities. Now, crazier enough, 6 months before Pooh Shiesty's trials begin, which is actually supposed to start in February of 2027, Pooh Shiesty has now gone on to drop this album still under the 1017 label, which, if you ask me, man, what was the point of doing what Pooh Shiesty did? Because now he's still under Gucci Mane's 1017 label, but facing a life sentence. If you ask me, man, Pooh Shiesty should have just took whatever Gucci Mane was giving him to the chin and kept it chucking.
Hindsight is 2020, ain't it? That's what they say. Yeah, I bet you he would. And I'm sure he wish he did a lot of things differently right now. But anybody, well, I won't say anybody in jail would do that. I'm sure a lot of people in jail wish they did something differently. At least one thing. Like, can we agree that you did one thing that you shouldn't have done? Can we agree you could have done one thing differently? You know, but yeah, I'm sure at this point, Pooh Shiesty probably realized that he could have done a few things differently. I mean, you know, a lot of those contracts, you know, once you sign them, you know, you work your way out of. You kind of have to hope for the best, unfortunately, but you know, maybe you can't do strong arm. You can't do strong arm negotiating. You know, that's not the, you know, maybe not necessarily the corporate way to handle it. You know, you got to handle it in a way. You're in the corporate world. You know, he may be in the street world too, but he's definitely corporate. When you follow contracts, when you're fighting your battle with contracts, you're in the corporate world. You know, you fighting pen and paper. You know, that's not street weapons. You know, that's weapons of the real shot callers. Yeah, you know, pen and paper. Pen is mightier than the sword. Anyway, that's my time for today. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for rocking with me. And we'll pick up tomorrow, 5 o'clock, same time, same place. This has been the Regroup. I'm J. Cal, presented by the Clout Report. Have a wonderful evening. Peace.